Right, Jenny. So, good first lesson last time. So I'm just going to go over some of the stuff that we went through. So first of all, you've got the notes on the fretboard. So I gave you that diagram there, but just keep in mind that a better way of doing it is kind of getting used to counting up the fretboard yourself, and then after a while you won't have to. So, for example, you're starting off on the E string here. And then all you need to remember is that it goes from A to G. They all have sharps except for B and D. So if we just do the first 5 frets, right? So you've got E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, and then it cycles back around to A again. Now keep in mind as well, right, that you've got a couple of little, I suppose, road markers here, right? So you've got the 5th fret on the 6th string is the same note as the next string down. Same here, same here. It's just on the G string, 4th fret is the same as the B string. So here you've got A, D, G, B, E. Okay, so if you just start kind of getting used to that, if you look at a chord, let's take C. So we know that the notes in the key of C are C, E, and G. So first, third, and fifth. C is the first, E is the third. That's the one that decides whether it's major or minor. So what's major is the gap between the first and the third, right? So there you've got C, E, open G, another C, and then another E as well. So first, third, fifth, first, third, right? So for example, that's why, the way you've got A major and then you drop the third down, there's A minor. The way there's no real, well, technically there kind of is, but there's no real C minor shape, right? Generally for a C minor, you would take A minor, A sharp minor, B minor, no B sharp, so there's C minor. So the reason you can't just change this into a C minor is because one of the thirds is an open string, so you can't take that down a fret, so that's why you have to kind of go some other way about it. Now technically, if I were to just replace this third with a fifth, a G, now the only third I need to lower to make it a minor is this one, so I could bring it down there. Now, not exactly the most practical shape in the world, but so that's C minor, right? So I want you to just kind of obviously you know the chords already, so what I want you to start doing now is just start figuring out where's the first, where's the third, where's the fifth. So if we look at let's say D, so we're starting off here, there's the first. So D, F sharp, and A are the notes in the chord of D, right? So you've got D, there's a first, A, that's a fifth, there's another D, so that's the first, or you could call it the eighth, and then there's the major third, right? So that's why when you bring this one down, it becomes a D minor, right? A couple of other things as well. You were saying chords like this, right? So what is that, right? So that's a G chord, except it doesn't start on the G note. It starts, we're just muting that one, and it starts there. So what that is, the chord is still G, but it's G over B. In other words, it's a G chord, but a B bass note, right? Another common one, for example, would be D over F sharp. So there's D, and we can just get the thumb actually holding it down. That's D over F sharp, right? Okay, and just a quick little run through as well of the key of C major, right? The chords in the key of C major, and try it as well. Instead of just looking at this as C, D minor, E minor, etc., look at them as chords of 1, 2, 3. So chord of 1, C major, 2, D minor, 3, E minor, 4 is F, chord of 5 is G, chord of 6 is the relative minor, right? So that's A minor here. So a bit more on that later. Then chord of 7 in a major key is always diminished, right? So we were saying that the alternative to that, if you want something that's just a bit more pleasing sounding, is use chord of 5 with its third in the bass. Okay, so chord of 5 is G. 1, 2, 3, there's its third. So G over B can be a kind of a substitute for that chord of 7. So instead of diminished chord sounds a bit miserable there. So what you can do instead is C, G over B, and it just sounds a bit smoother. Okay, so that's pretty much it for now. So just start learning the notes on the fretboard first of all. Use this as a kind of a guide, so this fifth fret here sounds the same as the A string, so that must be an A, you know, little things like that. Use your chromatic scale and start looking at chords. Number one, in terms of chord of 1, chord of 2, chord of 4, chord of 5, chord of 6, and so on. And as well as that, start looking at the chords in terms of, so what do we have here? We got the 1st, 3rd, 5th, 1st, 3rd. Say here, E minor, 1st, 5th, 1st, 3rd, 5th, 1st. All right. So just kind of start looking at these things in those terms, and eventually you won't really have to. You'll just know. So so that's enough to be getting on with today, and I'll see you next time.